Gu I go di wan shall be a lawman. Let me tell you something important. If you feel alone right now, if people don't understand you, if friends disappeared, if support is quiet, this may not be rejection. This may be direction. Many people think being alone means failure. They think something must be wrong with me. But history shows us something very different. Before anything strong is built, it is built quietly. Look at nature. A seed grows underground alone in darkness. No encouragement. But that dark place is not the end. It is the beginning. God often removes distractions before revealing direction. When too many voices surround you, you start living for approval instead of purpose. When everyone is around, you borrow opinions instead of discovering your own strength. That's why God sometimes says, step aside, walk alone. Learn who you are. Being alone teaches you things comfort never will. It teaches discipline. It teaches patience. It teaches resilience. When you are alone, you fail privately. You learn cheaply. You grow deeply. People see success and think it happened overnight. They don't see the long nights, the doubt, the silence, the moments where quitting felt easier than continuing. God isolates you so you can build without pressure. If everyone supported you too early, you would depend on them. If everyone believed in you too soon, you would never believe in yourself. So God says, let them leave, let them misunderstand, let them doubt, because the version of you that will change lives cannot be built in comfort. Loneliness sharpens focus. Silence strengthens vision. When you are alone, you don't perform, you prepare. And one day when the season changes, people will say, wow, you came out of nowhere. But you'll smile quietly because you know the truth. You didn't come out of nowhere. You came out of alone. So if you're walking alone right now, don't panic. Don't rush. Don't beg people to stay. This season is not empty. It is sacred. Stay faithful. Stay focused. Stay patient. Because when God is done training you in silence, your life will speak loudly without you saying a word. Isolation is not something to fear, and it is not a sign that you have failed or been forgotten. Most people see isolation as punishment, as if life is pushing them away or closing doors on them. But isolation is often preparation. It is the quiet season where strength is built without noise, where clarity is formed without distraction, and where purpose begins to take shape without outside influence. When everything slows down and people step away, you are given space to grow into who you are meant to become. When you are alone, you are forced to face yourself honestly. There is no crowd to hide behind, no applause to chase, and no opinions to lean on. This is where real strength develops. Strength does not come from being surrounded by support all the time. It comes from learning how to stand when support is absent. In isolation, you discover how much you can endure, how deeply you can think, and how far you can go without being carried by others. This season trains you to rely on discipline instead of motivation and faith instead of reassurance. Clarity is also born in isolation. Life is loud when everyone has access to your time, your energy, and your attention. Voices overlap, expectations collide, and priorities become blurred. Being alone removes the noise. It allows you to hear your own thoughts again, to recognize what truly matters and what never did. In isolation, you stop chasing what looks good to others and start focusing on what feels right for your calling. Decisions become sharper, direction becomes clearer, and confusion slowly fades. Purpose is rarely revealed in comfort. It is discovered in moments of stillness, uncertainty, and solitude. Isolation gives you time to prepare for responsibilities you cannot yet see. It shapes your character before your position, your mindset before your success, and your values before your influence. What feels like delay is often development. What feels like emptiness is often training. Isolation is not meant to break you. It is meant to build the version of you that can handle what is coming next. Before impact comes invisibility, and this is one of the hardest truths to accept. Everyone wants influence, recognition, and results, but very few are willing to walk through the season where nothing seems to be happening. Invisibility feels uncomfortable because effort goes unnoticed and progress feels slow. You work, you try, you learn, yet no one claps, no one reposts, no one calls your name. But invisibility is not wasted time. It is essential time. This is where foundations are laid. Anything that appears strong without a foundation eventually collapses, and that is why real growth often happens where no one is watching. In invisible seasons, you are free to experiment, to fail, and to learn without pressure. There is no audience to impress, so improvement becomes more important than appearance. This is where skills sharpen quietly and character forms naturally. You are allowed to be bad at something long enough to become good at it. The world celebrates results, But results are only possible because of countless unseen hours. Invisibility protects you from premature exposure, from responsibility you are not yet ready to carry, and from criticism that could discourage you too early. Many people quit in this phase because they mistake silence for stagnation. They think if no one notices them, nothing is growing. But growth does not announce itself. Roots grow downward before branches grow upward. Invisibility gives you the chance to strengthen those roots. It teaches patience, humility, and consistency. You learn how to keep going even when motivation fades, even when validation is absent. That inner endurance becomes the reason you can last when success finally arrives. Impact requires depth, and depth is formed in hidden places. When the time comes for visibility, it often happens suddenly, but it is never accidental. People will only see the moment you step forward, not the years you spent becoming ready. Invisibility is not denial, it is delay with intention. It is the quiet agreement between preparation and purpose, where you are being shaped for something larger than applause. Noise often feels productive, but it is silence that reveals direction. When life is crowded with conversations, opinions, and constant interaction, it becomes difficult to hear what truly matters. Everyone has advice, expectations, and judgments, and over time those voices can drown out your own. Silence creates space, and space allows truth to surface. When distractions fade, you begin to recognize which thoughts are yours and which ones you borrowed from others. In silence, you are no longer reacting, you are reflecting. You start noticing patterns in your behavior, strengths you ignored, and weaknesses you avoided. Without constant stimulation, your mind slows down enough to process experiences properly. Silence exposes intentions. It shows you what you are chasing and why. It becomes clear whether your goals are driven by purpose or by the desire to prove something. This kind of awareness rarely happens in noisy environments because noise encourages performance, not honesty. Silence also strengthens discernment. When fewer voices compete for attention, decisions become more intentional. You stop moving out of pressure and start moving with conviction. Silence teaches you to listen deeply, not just to words, but to instincts, values, and inner warnings. Many mistakes happen not because people lack intelligence, but because they ignore what they already know. Silence removes the excuses and forces you to acknowledge truth. In quiet moments, direction becomes personal. You are no longer following trends or timelines set by others. You begin to understand your own pace and path. Silence gives your calling room to breathe. It allows vision to form without being rushed or reshaped to fit expectations. What emerges is often simpler but stronger, clearer but heavier, because it is aligned with who you are rather than you are trying to impress. Silence does not give you answers instantly, but it sharpens the questions that lead you forward. God often separates before he elevates, and this separation can feel confusing when you do not understand what is coming next. When relationships change, access is reduced, and familiar support systems fall away. It is easy to assume something has gone wrong, but separation is rarely about loss, it is about alignment. Elevation requires a different mindset, a stronger character, a clearer sense of responsibility. Not everyone who is comfortable with the old version of you is prepared for the weight of where you are going. Separation protects you from carrying unnecessary baggage into your next level. Some connections are meaningful for a season, but not designed for every stage. When growth begins, comfort can become a limitation. God separates you so your decisions are no longer influenced by fear of disappointing others or by the need to fit in. In distance, you begin to move with intention instead of approval. This is where independence of thought and confidence in direction are developed. Elevation brings visibility, pressure, and accountability. Without separation, these things can overwhelm you. Separation is where discipline is refined, habits are corrected, and priorities are reordered. You learn how to manage time, emotions, and energy without external validation. You become stable before you become visible. This is necessary because elevation exposes weaknesses quickly, and preparation reduces the damage those weaknesses can cause. Many people resist separation because it feels uncomfortable and unfamiliar. They try to hold on to what God is asking them to release. But growth often requires letting go before receiving more. Separation teaches you how to walk without leaning, how to lead without copying, and how to stand firm without constant reassurance. It strengthens your inner structure so that success does not collapse in inside. Elevation is not just about position, it is about responsibility. God separates you to teach stewardship over small things before trusting you with greater influence. You learn how to handle silence, delay, and misunderstanding without bitterness. You develop humility without shrinking and confidence without arrogance. Separation is not a sign that you are being removed from purpose. It is proof that purpose is being taken seriously. When elevation comes, it often feels sudden to others, but you know it was built slowly. The quiet distance, the unanswered calls, the long stretches of standing alone were not empty moments. They were shaping moments, creating space for maturity, wisdom, and strength to form without distraction. Elevation changes what is required of you, and that is why separation often comes first. When your environment stays the same, expectations stay the same, and growth becomes limited. God separates you so you can unlearn habits that no longer fit your future. Old patterns feel safe because they are familiar, but familiarity can quietly keep you small. Separation disrupts comfort and forces adjustment. In that adjustment, you begin to stretch in ways you never would have chosen on your own. Separation also reveals motives. When people are around, it is easy to confuse purpose with performance. You do things to be seen, appreciated, or accepted. When you are separated, those rewards disappear. What remains is the real reason you started. This is where integrity is tested. You discover whether you will continue when there is no audience and no immediate benefit. Elevation without this testing often leads to pride or burnout because the foundation was never checked. In separation, God reshapes your identity. You stop defining yourself by roles, relationships, or recognition. You learn who you are without titles and without constant affirmation. This is uncomfortable because it strips away borrowed confidence and replaces it with something deeper. Confidence that comes from knowing your values, limits, and responsibilities lasts longer than confidence built on praise. Separation builds that kind of inner stability. Elevation also demands discernment, and discernment grows in distance. When fewer people have access to you, your energy becomes more intentional. You learn when to say no, when to wait, and when to move. Separation teaches you that access is not entitlement and closeness is not obligation. These lessons protect you later when influence increases and demands multiply. Many people want elevation but resist the discipline that prepares them for it. They want doors to open without understanding what it takes to stay inside the room. Separation trains endurance. It strengthens patience and removes shortcuts. You begin to value progress over speed and alignment over popularity. This mindset keeps you grounded when opportunities expand. Separation is not about isolation forever. It is about positioning. It creates room for growth that would be impossible in crowded spaces. It allows your mindset to mature at the same pace as your potential. Elevation without separation often collapses under pressure, but elevation built on distance discipline. And clarity carries weight without breaking